Hello, my name's Tony Morbin. I'm Editor-in-Chief at SC Magazine. We're here today with Gidi Cohen, CEO of Skybox.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Very good to see you. Gidi, one of the things you've been talking about in terms of protecting systems is using the phrase indicators of exposure. How does that differ from indicators of compromise?
It's a good question. So let's start with what is indicators of compromise. Indicators of compromise are basically indicators that tells you that some attack went through. So forensic artifacts typically on systems, network devices, etc. Indicators of exposure on the other hand are basically telling you the story about what can be exposed, what can be attacked, what are the pieces of the attack vectors that hackers can exploit to their benefit.
So if indicators of exposure are essentially vulnerabilities and actually telling you what is vulnerable, if you already know that, surely the thing is to actually fix it rather than simply monitor it.
We would definitely recommend all of our customers try to fix whatever is vulnerable. The reality is that some large organizations might have millions of different vulnerabilities of different sorts. It can be software bugs or misconfigurations, it can be network device issues, segmentation issues. So the list can be so long, and therefore it's very important for the organization to focus on what's most critical for them first.
So if we do have this information from monitoring our exposure, how do we use this to reduce our attack surface?
Yes, so the best practice would be, first of all, of course, to know what are all of your indicators of exposure on all of your systems, say in your data centers, endpoints, public clouds, wherever. Normalize them so we have kind of one view of all of them together, because there are indicators of different sorts from different systems, and then prioritize them based on the corporate context of what's so important for the organization, both from business perspective, technical perspective, regulatory perspective, etc.
Okay, so exactly how are you using it? Are you using it as a preventative means, or is it something that you actually use during an attack, or is it all about remediation?
Good question. So it can be used in all of the above. Obviously, if you know before the attack about some critical exposures, it's highly recommended to fix it. So obviously it's used as a preventive mean for organizations, but also during the attack or after the attack, when you found, even with your IOCs, you found some attack going on, and you want to understand how to contain it and how to remediate it and how to prevent further, let's say, spread of a malware, you would obviously want to understand the surrounding indicators of exposure or your vulnerabilities and fix them ahead of the continuation of the attack.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you've partly covered one of the questions I was going to ask on the prioritization, but can you explain a little bit further? You've got a really serious, dangerous attack, but it's not very likely, or you've got a very likely but not so serious attack. Which one are you going to prioritize, and how do you prioritize with all this information coming through?
Yes, so maybe I'll start with the how to prioritize. So our approach was always that a simulation of attacks or attack simulation technology is the right engine to put and correlate all of this information together. Because if you're looking on attack vectors, one item is that they can be chained, right? So multiple attack vectors can be used together in order to get to their destination. In order to exploit an attack vector, a lot of things need to happen. Network access or user access, ability to escalate privilege or whatever the attack vector is. And therefore, looking at every vulnerability or misconfiguration by itself doesn't tell the story. You need to put all of them together. And again, I think that the right technology for that is simulation.
I mean, you're talking about putting things together. What about all the traditional approaches, the endpoint scanning, patch management solutions? Where do they fit into this?
Yeah, all of them are needed, but at the end of the day, they generate a lot of data without any context for the organization. So, security analytics solution like Skybox or other vendors take that as an input right to the engine, but only as one of the pieces of information. Looking at the endpoint information without understanding the network, security control, the business logic gives you a very, very partial picture. And you need to put all of that together in order to have a full understanding of the attack surface.
Mm-hmm. And what about other sources of threat information? I mean, are you bringing in third parties of threat intelligence? And to what extent? How does it integrate? And should you be sharing the information that you've got?
Sure. So we are integrating with the multiple threat intelligence sources. Our vulnerability research team is using more than 20 different sources on an ongoing basis from some of the scanning vendors, independent sources or government sources, the software vendors and others, to be able to provide a complete picture of all of the vulnerability landscape organizations might have. And this information we make actually available to our customers both through our products, utilized in our simulation engine, and also through actually an open website called Vulnerability Center that allows everyone actually to tap into our vulnerability intelligence.
I mean, when you talk about simulation there, I know you do simulation and modeling. That can really only work with known threats. I mean, how do you deal with new threats that come up that you've not come across before?
Yeah, so first of all, modeling and simulation can work with unknown threats as well, both in terms of where they originate from, right? They can originate within the organization, they can originate from external networks, from public clouds or wherever they're coming from. So that's one, right? So we can deal with many of them. In addition to that, a lot of the known vulnerabilities, maybe one day they're known, but there's no known exploit. So no one tried, no one could exploit them, let's say, with the malware. A day after that or a year after that, there might be a new malware that can exploit them. This type of intelligence, as soon as it's becoming public, we are actually incorporating in our simulation. So even if there's some zero-day attack happening, from 0, 0 plus 1, we'll be able to provide a lot of visibility for the organization, what's the impact on them, and what's the best way to remediate against that.
Gidi, I would like you to really now sort of sum up what really are the business impacts of using indicators of exposure.
Yeah. So I would say, first of all, indicator of exposure concept generalizes a lot of different pieces of security data that until that point in time looked very different, like a vulnerability on the system looked different than a misconfiguration of a firewall or from a wrong network zoning. So indicator of exposure is generalizing all of that to one concept, basically. When you take all of that together and overlay it on the attack surface, you can provide for the first time visibility for the chief information security officer, for board of organization in a very visual way, what's the total risk or exposure the organization may face and where in their network or their infrastructure. So visibility to executives, a generalization of the concept of IOEs or vulnerabilities. I think these are the key takeaways that I would add here, basically.
Thank you very much, Gidi.
Thank you.